Hi, my name is Random Tuesday, and in this video I'm going to show you how I made my Admiral Holdo cosplay Tiara from the Star Wars The Last Jedi movie. You can also check out my website for other information on this and many other cosplays, subscribe to my YouTube channel, watch me on Twitch, or check me out over on Patreon. The first step is to create a template for yourself to work with. I found a circular object that was about the right size that I wanted the tiara to be in the end, drew around that, emphasized it in Sharpie, and used that as my basis. It ended up being about 5.5 inches in diameter. Next, you're going to create each of the individual rings of the tiara. I made mine as circles and then cut out the excess material to turn them into arcs, rather than trying to make each of the arcs the exact right shape. So the first is to start with one that's the size of your template. I'm using a 12 gauge wire that has been wrapped in vinyl plastic. This makes it bulkier and thicker without actually making the wire harder to manipulate and bend. Once you cut each section out of the wire, the easiest way to get them into that nice circular shape is to overbend them a little bit and then stretch them back. And lastly, just stick them in place with, I used some duct tape so it was nice and secure, but any sort of temporary tape to keep that shape. After you've created your 5 rings, each slightly larger than the last, although you may end up making some smaller, you're going to turn them into arcs. So you're going to want to remove about the bottom third of the material, give or take, that is the section where those rings join together. So lay them all flat and just mark along them with a Sharpie before having at them with your wire cutters and removing that excess material. Once you have your 5 arcs now, you're going to secure them all together because you're going to be gluing them in place. So the first thing you do is lay them all flat in size order, and then keep the ends together by using just a piece of tape folded over. Next, you're going to secure them a little higher up so you can remove that bottom tape because that's where you're going to be applying the glue. I ended up gluing mine together in between each section and just a lot of excess glue using some E6000 to keep everything together. Once the ends of all of the arcs have been glued together, we're going to be creating the support structure, that sort of inner ring that allows us to tuck it in and clip it to our hair or to our wig. Now you're going to start by creating essentially a smaller arc that's going to go in the middle. Now you want this first to be big enough that it'll attach to the back of your head, but small enough that it's not going to be seen. So you're going to need to do a little bit of fiddling with this on the back of your head to figure out how high exactly you want all of these arcs to sit. Once you have a good length, you're going to make a right angle bend, well, a sort of a bend at one of the ends, and that's going to glue onto the end of each of these arcs. So you're going to essentially create this little smaller arc with these 2 little extra tabby bends, and then you're going to glue them in place. Reinforce the ends of those arcs with a little bit of Worbla to keep everything secure in place and less wibbly wobbly than with just the glue. So we start with a piece of Worbla, sort of a square folded over the ends, and then smush together and press down to keep the arcs nice and flat and in line with each other. After that, you're going to clean up the edges of the Worbla by just folding and pressing and molding those edges in to give as smooth and as narrow a profile as you can. We're really trying to avoid adding bulk while also adding some stability. The last portion is to bend back that center arc so that the tiara itself sits on your head where you would like it to sit. I found that I needed to have a little bit more of an angle on that center arc than just having it lay flat. So I was heating the Worbla and then just kind of tipping the ends back to keep it at that right angle for my head and to give the best Admiral Holdo look. The final stage is to paint the tiara. So I first did a layer of black matte primer as a black matte spray paint as a primer. Then I went over the entire thing with some silver acrylic paint. The next layer was the sort of highlight decorative layer, was a darker silver, the pewter silver rub and buff. And finally, I did the silver leaf rub and buff over the top in a few places to just kind of give a little bit extra dimension and to highlight it. It is important to be careful as you are painting it. You're going to need to separate out some of those rings a little bit, otherwise the paint is going to completely stick them together. So you might want to paint a little bit, dry a little bit, and kind of continue on that way. You don't need to have any paint on that inner ring. I chose to leave mine black to help it kind of blend in a little bit more, look a little bit more shadow-like when I was wearing it with my wig. Finally, after all of the paint is dry and in place, I sealed it all using a spray sealant that works well with metallic paint to just give a nice shiny finish and also protect all of the painting underneath. The final part is to attach your attachments. Now, my main attachment here is a hair comb that I have tied essentially using some embroidery thread, just kind of wrapping it around on this support arc in the back. And then I used a little bit of hot glue to just kind of stop it from wobbling and keep it nice and secure. The other attachments I have are little metal rings that I placed at the bottom. These ones were done by wrapping some wire around the strut and then wrapping them into kind of little loops, which I then also just used a little bit of hot glue to kind of keep them in place. So to put this in our hair, we're going to part a little section on the back of our head, and this works if it's a wig or just your regular hair. Kind of hold this out of the way. You're gonna tuck it through the top of the loop, and then as high up as you can, you want to get the comb into the hair on the back of your head, or if you have a wig, directly into that wig bag. Get it sitting up as high as you want, adjusting it as you need to. And then to stop the side-to-side wobble, that's where we use our bobby pins, and those go into the directly into those loops on the back. And I use 2 to kind of keep each pretty secure. And you can kind of floof around your hair as you need to hide any little bits you don't want seen. And that is your Admiral Holdo tiara. Thank you so much for watching this video on how to create your very own Admiral Holdo tiara. Hope you found it helpful, and if you do need any more resources or information on this and many other cosplays, head over to my website, randomtuesday.net, for tutorials and patterns and lots of good stuff over there. You can also subscribe to me over on YouTube, as well as check me out live on twitch.tv/randomtuesday. And lastly, and certainly not leastly, thank you to each and every one of my patrons over on Patreon who have helped make this and many other videos a reality. If you're able to support me with a small monthly amount, that really helps keep these and many other videos coming. Thank you so much for watching.